Benjamin Impossible. Chapter 2. Lightsavers and LolliPoppers. The crowd of stranded people circled Benjamin and gawked at the robotic dog hovering before them. "This, folks," said the boy, "is Noah. That stands for Non-Offensive Autonomous Hound. He is a prototype robot that we are developing at Impossible Incorporated. He is also super awesome." Noah was the size of a large dog. His metal body had a robotic head that rotated on a flexible neck. A metal tail wagged back and forth like a real dog. Instead of legs, however, the robot used 4 jet thrusters to rocket through the air. Benjamin explained. "Noah here is filled with hyperhelium that allows him to float in the air." He looked around at the crowd, one eyebrow raised. "You people have heard of hyperhelium before, right?" Several people nodded. Benjamin grunted with satisfaction. "Good! My father, Professor Impossible, invented hyperhelium. It is a gas that floats upward like helium in a balloon, but hyperhelium has 500 times the lifting force of regular helium. It allows Noah to hover in the air, despite being built out of metal and other electronic stuff you average people wouldn't understand." The crowd looked impressed, so Benjamin continued. "In fact, hyperhelium is the reason I can do this." With that, he jumped into the air, flying 30 feet upward into the sky. Everyone wooed as he drifted back down to land in the middle of the astonished crowd. Benjamin pointed at his black outfit. "My ninja suit here has inflated pockets of hyperhelium embedded throughout it that make me weigh only a few pounds. This allows me to jump and land from great heights." The old grandmother poked at the robotic dog with her cane. The robot turned to look back at her, growling from a speaker under its chin. "That's mighty fancy, young lad, but how does that get us off this roof? Can this floating contraption carry us down?" Benjamin shook his head. "No, you are all too chubby to ride my robot. Fortunately, we've come prepared for this situation." Benjamin pushed a button on Noah's back and a hatch opened on the robot's metal surface. The boy reached inside this cavity and pulled out a bundle of yellow belts. "These are lightsavers. Please pass them out." Benjamin instructed the crowd to line up in single file and attach the yellow belts around their waists. He took one of the extra belts and clipped it around the waist of the sleeping man on the ground. These lightsavers are inflatable belts, each with a small canister of hyperhelium inside. Just turn this knob slowly to inflate your belt until you find yourself at neutral density. Benjamin demonstrated on the sleeping man. The yellow belt inflated until the slumbering man was floating several feet above the roof. The floating ruffian mumbled to himself but didn't wake from his drug-induced nap. The stranded people followed Benjamin's instructions until they, too, were floating and bouncing several inches above the rooftop. Several people filled their belts too quickly and shot upward into the air, drifting into the clouds. Noah flew up and retrieved them, bringing them back down to the rooftop so that Benjamin could adjust their flotation settings. "Okay, Noah, everyone is weightless. Give me some rope, please." The robotic dog barked once, then lifted his tail. A rope extruded from the dog's metallic posterior and piled up on the ground in large coils. "Dude," Benjamin said, laughing, "that is gross. It looks like you're pooping out the longest dog duty of all time." "What are you going to do with the rope?" one man asked. "Isn't it obvious?" Benjamin said, stretching out the cable. "I'm tying you to Noah's leash." Benjamin tied everyone to the rope. When he was satisfied that every person was securely fastened, the boy thumped on the robot's back. "Okay, Noah," Benjamin said, "take these people to the nearest hospital." The dog barked and tilted its head. Benjamin held up his computer watch and ran a quick search. "There's a hospital nearby with an all-you-can-eat salad bar. These random citizens need medical attention, and they might be hungry after their ordeal. After all, it's not often you get saved by a famous celebrity." The grandmother looked around the roof in confusion. "Is there a celebrity here? I want to take a picture." Before Benjamin could think of a response, the robotic dog launched into the air, dragging the floating people behind. The levitating crowd screamed in terror as they flew over the roof's edge and disappeared into the night. "Oh yeah!" Benjamin yelled, pumping his fist into the air. "Benjamin Impossible, the Sky Ninja, has saved the day again!" At that moment, Benjamin's watch vibrated. He raised the timepiece and touched the watch face to accept the call. A video image of his little brother, Charlie, appeared on the watch's crystal screen. "Benjamin!" a high-pitched voice came out. Where are you? Benjamin rolled his eyes. I'm busy, little brother. You're not having fun without me, are you? Benjamin looked around at the empty rooftop, then over the edge of the building where he could see fire trucks and police cars everywhere. The fire had engulfed the lower floors of the building in flames and seemed to be rising. Fun? No, not really. I'm standing on top of a burning building. Are you sure? Charlie asked. The GPS built into your watch says you're standing on top of the Acme toy factory. That sure sounds like you're having fun. You're not playing with toys right now, are you? Benjamin blinked in surprise and looked over the edge of the burning building again. Really? I didn't realize this was a burning toy factory. What am I doing standing on the roof? I'd better go down into the main building to investigate these toys, and to make sure nobody else is trapped inside. Charlie nodded. Don't play too long and bring me back a prize. Mother says the ship will be there in 5 minutes to pick you up. Also, she says you better not be late for dinner. It's your turn to clean the dishes. Fine, fine, Benjamin mumbled, closing the video call. His little brother could be so annoying. Besides, he needed to get down into that toy factory to see if anyone was trapped inside with the fire still ablaze. Benjamin spotted a rooftop door that looked promising. He bounded over and placed his hand on the door frame. The wood felt cool, so it was probably safe to open. Unfortunately, the doorknob was locked. Who locks a door while running out of a burning building? Benjamin asked in frustration. I must have something I can use to get this door open. He searched his equipment. First, he brought out his gas blaster, his favorite invention. The gas blaster looked like a toy gun. The device used compressed air to shoot small plastic balls out of its barrel when he pulled the trigger. These projectiles weren't dangerous by themselves, but each of the plastic balls contained a liquid that would burst on impact to create various special effects. Plus, the gun made a farting sound when it fired. Benjamin was a crack shot at the gas blaster and could hit a tin can from 100 feet away. The gas blaster was also a lot of fun at home. Benjamin loved to sneak past his brother's room and shoot a ball filled with skunk juice inside. Charlie always ran out, gagging from the awful stench, much to his big brother's amusement. Let's see, Benjamin said, checking his gas blaster ammunition to see what he had available for this situation. I don't need a fart bomb or a stink cloud. This place is smoky and smelly enough already. I also don't need to shoot any squid ink or itching powder. And I certainly don't need to shoot any balls filled with superglue. I guess my balls can't help me this time. Benjamin then searched the pockets of his ninja suit for a solution to the locked door. All he could find was his library card and a lollipop. He thought to himself. If I was trying to be sneaky, I could use this library card to jimmy the lock open. That would be pretty clever and very quiet. Benjamin looked around. No one else was on the roof, and the helicopters seemed to have left, chasing after the flying robot dog and the trailing line of floating refugees. On the other hand, Benjamin mused, I could just lick this lollipop instead. He unwrapped the lollipop and licked the candy surface. Immediately, the candy started to fizz and bubble at the end of the wooden stick. This was no ordinary piece of candy, but a LolliPopper, the most explosive assault candy ever invented. Benjamin threw the LolliPopper at the locked door where it stuck, just above the door handle. He stepped back and put his fingers in his ears. Blam! The lollipop exploded, punching a round hole through the wooden door and making a tremendous racket. Benjamin grinned as he reached through the jagged hole and unlocked the door from the inside with his nimble fingers. That's the coolest way to unlock a door ever, Benjamin said as he opened the door and stepped inside. He was glad his mother wasn't here. She didn't approve of candy, especially the kind that might give you cavities or blow your head off. Benjamin found himself in a smoky stairwell. He walked down the steps and soon found himself in a large, open room. The fire hadn't reached this level yet. The room was vast, taking up the entire floor with no intervening walls. Instead, row after row of metal racks divided the room like library shelves. But instead of books, the shelves held packaged toys of every kind. He saw remote-controlled cars, dolls, sports equipment, art supplies, and video game consoles. This would have been very interesting to Benjamin, except that everything was wet. The fire had set off the sprinkler system, and jets of water ran down from pipes in the ceiling, coating everything and getting in Benjamin's eyes. "This place is a disaster," he said, walking along the aisles of toys, the wet carpet squishing under his feet. "This reminds me of the mess I made when I accidentally flushed that Christmas sweater down the toilet." Benjamin poked at some of the toys on the shelves. Most of the cool ones were electronic and wholly ruined from the water damage. Water and electronics didn't mix well, apparently. "Anybody in here?" Benjamin yelled, looking down each of the aisles. "Because the building is on fire and you need to get out. Anyone?" No one answered Benjamin's yells, but he thought he heard something from the far side of the room. He jumped up on top of a shelf, then bounced from aisle to aisle. His ninja suit allowed him to jump from ledge to ledge without even touching the ground. In the corner of the room, he found something strange. A man stood in the corner. He was large and wore a trench coat. The man faced the edge of the room as if someone had put him in time out. The figure was especially odd because his head hung tilted to the side and he held a large cardboard box in his arms. This box was wedged between the man's body and the wall. Also, the man's legs moved as if he were walking, but he wasn't going anywhere. His feet just slid on the wet tile without advancing, like he was walking on a stationary treadmill. Benjamin looked down at the figure from his perch on top of a shelf. Mister, you okay? If you are trying to do the moonwalk, you are doing it all wrong." The figure didn't seem to hear and continued to walk in place, facing the wall with the box in hand. Right, Benjamin wondered. Maybe this guy is confused by all the smoke. Or perhaps he is deaf and can't hear me. Benjamin jumped down to the ground with a squish of the carpet and tapped the man on the back. "Hey, mister, we need to get out of here. Smoking buildings are bad for your health, you know." At Benjamin's touch, the stranger stopped walking and turned toward the boy. Benjamin jumped back in surprise, for the stranger's face was made of metal, and his fierce eyes contained red, glowing lights that seemed to look right through him. It was a robot, and it didn't look friendly. You've reached the end of Chapter 2. Please consider leaving a like below. Then continue on to Chapter 3, Mechanical Menace.